We're driving in, we see this nice Range Rover pull in, at the time we didn't have any fancy cars, but we go into the restaurant, we're the first ones, and this, white lady comes in with her kid. We get to the front and the lady literally looks over like this to the lady behind us and says, "Can I help you?" Okay, so today we have the pleasure of having I'm gonna call you lending ladies. Is that okay? We have the lending ladies. Or do you have a name for yourselves?
The mortgage girls.
The mortgage girls. Okay, the mortgage girls. There we go. So we have Diana and Damaris. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
And my podcast is about educating people, like young entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. And so I want to expose them to different industries, lending, real estate. I've had a chiropractor on the podcast. So I want to expand it. I want them, to see women, men, young, old, whatever. Like I want to educate people basically. And so in particular, like I grew up, in a Hispanic family and immigrant Hispanic family. So I'm second generation, born in the US, but I grew up like with that immigrant mentality, right? My parents from Guatemala.
Mm-hmm.
So I have you guys today, and I see you guys as entrepreneurs first because you're hustling, you're working for yourselves, and you're trying to grow. You're not just your business, but your brand too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're the mortgage ladies. So tell me a little bit about what you guys currently do. What are your ultimate goals? What do you want to achieve? What's your biggest goal right now, currently?
Well, we're currently doing loans. We do home loans, refinances, and all of that. Right now, it's a really good experience that we're going through. We're branching out. So We're building our own branch, and eventually, obviously, we're working on our broker's license. So eventually we can do our own office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So currently you don't own your own mortgage, your mortgage company?
No, we're currently under someone, and we're branching out with our own name.
Got it.
And while we work on getting the broker's license.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And then you guys have been in this business for a really long time. Tell me, what's been the most difficult thing about being a loan officer or lender?
I think in the lending world, it's a very male-dominated industry. Being a woman in this industry, I think, has to be the toughest.
Yeah.
Just because, unfortunately, right? And just because you're a woman, sometimes you get looked down on. Mm-hmm. Even if you have all these years of experience or education behind you, or you close however many transactions. Just the fact.
Do you feel that way, or do you like have examples of like, no, I can give you an example of where this actually happened, or someone said, because I have heard guys.
1,000%. I have an example. I met with this client. I hadn't been in the industry for too long, but I had been doing a lot of transactions. Mm-hmm. So, I'm short, I'm little. And this was, unfortunately, again, your typical Hispanic man, that works hard labor. And he questioned how long had I been in the business. And I said, I think at that point I had been doing it for like a year. And he just basically said, like, "Are you sure you're going to be able to get this done?" And I was like, why?
He was questioning you.
Yeah. So then I brought up, like, you know what? I've closed however many transactions. I have a master's degree in finance. Like, I know how to help you. Right. And we ended up closing.
What's a master's degree?
Literally. So we ended up closing on his house, and he was very happy. But that was the first time I was kind of called out. And it was like, whoa.
Do you reach out to that client now?
No.
You gotta reach out. You gotta make an example of that, right? Like, just, get referrals from that guy. Like, hey, I closed you, buddy.
Yeah. It just hurt my ego a little bit.
Yeah. You know what? Obviously, I'm in that industry too, right? Male dominated. So I've never really had, actually, we have our kind of complaints in this industry now, because we feel like social media, the conversation I have with guys is that social media favors the girls. If you're a girl, you're on social media, whatever it is, like, it's easier. I don't know if it's a softer looking face, features, whatever it is, like, girls come across easier to an audience, to girls and guys. Mm-hmm. If you're a girl and a girl sees you, I want to be successful like that girl.
Yeah.
You know, no one says I want to be successful like that guy anymore because it's so like that's the dominant thing. Yeah, we're so So right now it's more about empowering women. Even some of my own team that I've had in the past, I'll be showing a house and I'll go, oh, I follow this person. I'm like, oh man, the name keeps coming up like social media, you know. But so you know, I don't think that's a purposeful discrimination, but we do feel like that's also like. However, I'll share a little incident that did happen that I do think had to do with like race. My wife and I were going to a sushi restaurant in LA that I looked up on some reviews because I love sushi and I wanted to try out a new place. And as we're driving in, we see this nice Range Rover pull in, you know. At the time, we didn't have any fancy cars, you know, but we're pulling in and this Range Rover pulls in and we step out our car. We go into the restaurant. We're the first ones. And this, you know, white lady comes in with her kid. Very nice. Nothing bad with her or anything with her. But we get to the front and this was a Japanese, it was an actual Japanese sushi place. The lady literally looks over like this to the lady behind us and says, "Can I help you?" That was my first and like really only like very direct experience of like discrimination that I've ever had. Oh, wow. Now, which was like, we should have left, but you know, I'm like, you know what? I'm here for the food. And honestly, it was the worst sushi. And I don't know if it was because it was actually bad sushi or I just had a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't tip. I just left. I was like, let's get out of here. But it still happens, you know, obviously. Any other struggles that you guys have faced?
No, I think that would be the only thing that kind of, because everything else we make it work.
Sure.
Right. But with that, it's kind of like, how can we be better at this? How can we improve this? You know, not being looked at, oh, you're a woman, you're not going to be able to do this. Or you're not going to be able to negotiate what I need on my loan. It's not even about that. And like she said, no matter how much experience you have, there's always going to be people that have more experience than you. Sure. And they're going to be the ones telling you, well, I have 20 years of experience. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not that old to have that much experience. But I know what I was born. But I know what I'm doing, you know?
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's the only thing that we face that we can say like it's tough, but other than that, I mean, this is a really good business. Sure. We love it.
Yeah. So you know, let's jump into then, like, for the young people out there or anybody really who's looking into getting into lending, like, what are some of the things that you would tell them to do or not to do as they're thinking about this? You know, would you recommend them shadowing? Would you recommend them, you know, taking a personality test? Because those are things that we don't really talk about.
Yeah.
You just kind of jump into something. You're like, oh man, is this really the thing for me? You know?
Right.
So I'm so glad you brought up shadowing, because I think the main struggle with like new loan officers is because, well, two things. One, they don't know guidelines. They don't know how to structure loans. And two, they don't really know anybody in the industry. Right. Mm-hmm. So I would highly, highly recommend for anybody that's wanting to start in the lending world to be somebody's assistant, somebody's processor, even just to get exposed to what do you need in the front end, what do you need in the back end of things, so that you learn what documents to request, how to structure your loans. That being in that position is also going to expose you to a lot of people in the industry. So that's how people are going to get to know you, so that when you do like fly on your own, you already have the knowledge and you already have the networking down. I think that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Okay, awesome. That's good. What would you say?
The same. And you know what? It's funny because we both started as assistants. So we both, you know, learned from the beginning how to structure a deal, how to contact the client. Because even to contact the client, you kind of have to know how to talk to them.
Sure.
So I started as a customer service rep, scheduling appointments, following up on documents. And then I was in LOA, loan assistant. Yeah. So we both started like that. So I think it's very important to start from the bottom, especially if you're going from an industry to a different industry, like you're in the medical field and then you want to do loans or real estate. You're not really going to have much knowledge in this other industry that you're trying to get into. I feel like, starting as an assistant, it's a really good idea because you're going to learn everything. Sure. You're going to learn from other people's mistakes and, or you're going to see what's good to do in the process of escrow.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kind of be behind the scenes.
Yes.
And know that stuff. I had the question in my head and then I just kind of like escaped me, but maybe I would share maybe a couple things that people are unaware of that you have to do as a lender that maybe most people don't think. Because even in real estate, right? People think it's like just show up to the office and you'll get clients. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. In your case, you're helping the people that are like, borrowing money, right? But in a lot of ways, your clients are your realtors, right? Like the real estate agents. So tell me about that, because I think a lot of people don't know about building that particular part of your business.
Yeah. So to start in this business, it's going to be hard if you don't know people in the industry. But I think one of the things that absolutely helps is starting to build those relationships with agents. Take them out to lunch, take them out for coffee, whatever it is. But just build that relationship. And it's not just about the business. Get to know that person. So do
you ever go broke like taking out these agents? Because I feel bad. I have some lenders, they'll pay for the meal. And I'm like, no, dude, it's okay. I know you're like trying to like build a relationship, but I can pay my own. And they're like, no, it's good. I'm like,
it's part of the business. It's part of this. And one thing that people need to know, we are commission only. So you said, it's not just showing up to the office 9 to 5. It's getting the business. And it's not just being at the office. You have to go out there and get the business. One of the things that I feel like it helps a lot building your reputation is like work good files, like submit good files. Make sure that your files are gonna go through. Just don't
just don't issue pre-approvals left and right. Make sure that you have a solid file so that when you are in escrow, everything goes smooth, and then you're happy with your buyer's agent and your listing agent. They're both happy with the way you performed.
And don't overpromise. If you see that there's an issue, be transparent. I always say that, be transparent. If you see that there's an issue with your file and you're probably gonna need more time, don't wait until the last minute to tell everyone, hey, we need an extension. No. If you see an issue, hey, we're gonna need a couple of days, be open about it. And I mean, there's things that you cannot control. Like if I had one recently where my buyer, she spent her money for her down payment. Even though we advised people what to do in the process, I mean, there's things that you cannot control. So we had to come up with the gift, but I was transparent with my agents. I let them know what happened. We closed 3 days late, but I mean, they knew about it.
3 days is not bad. That's
not
actually
bad,
good.
but I mean, but it's still, you want to have that open communication with them, and they're going to trust you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are your share about like the things that you love about doing lending? Because we don't talk a lot about the positives too much, I think. So what is it that you love about this business, and what would you want people to know? Like, hey, if you get into this is actually a really good thing for you because you can do this, or,
For me, the main thing is helping my first-time home buyers. I'm not going to lie. Maybe that sounds cliche, but especially my Hispanic families, that there was one in particular that, I don't know, they will forever stick with me. It wasn't even my first transaction. I actually met them when they didn't have papers. So they had an ITIN number. I couldn't qualify them. They didn't have money. We still kept in contact. I don't know. We just kind of bonded. And then barely last year, she contacted me and she said, hey, like, I just got my green card. Like, I'm ready to go. And I don't know, just her whole story. And we meet all these type of people all the time where they come here with that dream of, getting a good job, getting their house, because back in their home countries, they can never afford one, or whatever the case may be, and just making it happen for them. I think that has to be the best. Sure. At least for me, that's like the highlight of my day.
Same here. When I worked more with buyers, I think that was the biggest like satisfaction is helping a first time buyer, handing those keys and the smile on their face, the kids running into the house. That's always the best. Did you want to share something?
Yeah. For me, it's when a borrower has been denied by other lenders and they're losing hope. They're like almost giving up, and we're able to make it happen. I don't know. It just makes me so happy because there's people that they just don't want to do the extra work.
Right.
Oh, because the loan amount is too low, or it's going to be a hard file. They don't want to deal with that.
Do you put pictures of those lenders and then like start doing the counts of how many?
No.
I got this many from them.
But it's a very nice feeling when you're able to help someone that was almost giving up.
Sure.
And another thing too, like she said, with the Hispanic community, especially older people, it reminds me of my parents. It reminds me of my dad when he bought his first house. I remember the loan officer and the real estate agent, they would go to our house to get the papers, to teach him how to build credit and all of that. And every time, like, I have a client, an older client, and Hispanic, doesn't speak English or doesn't know how to do emails and all of that stuff. It reminds me of my parents. And
those are hard though.
Yeah,
they are. They are hard.
They are
a little bit more.
It's just
time.
a click. Just click the.
Yeah, but it just brings me back to like one day someone helped my parents, and I want to do that. I want to do the same.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny you bring that up because my parents never bought a house to this day. They never bought a house. And actually that leads me to another question that. Especially Latinos tend to be very old school with their money, right? Like they don't want to borrow money, which is good. I say in a lot of ways, if you go to like Guatemala, Mexico, they don't have mortgages on their homes. They're poor, but they don't have debt.
Yeah.
Whereas here, like we're poor because we have debt, right? Because we have a lot of debt, the wrong kind of debt. So maybe speak about then why, like educate Hispanics, Latinos, or just people in general as to why there is such thing as good debt. Because there's a lot of preaching out there that just debt is bad.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think there's good debt. I used to follow a lot of Dave Ramsey, which, the guy's a millionaire, so he can talk. Obviously, he can give that advice. But why would you argue for good debt? Do you believe there's good debt?
Yeah, absolutely. Like investments.
You wouldn't be in the business, right?
Yeah, investments, homes. That's good debt. Another thing that we see in the Hispanic community is, like you were saying, everything is cash, right? Some of them don't have credit because they don't want to open a line of credit because they're like, oh, no, I just like to pay cash. And when it comes to that and they are trying to buy a house, they don't have any credit because they never bought anything using credit. It's always like they buy their cars, cash, or whatever they get, it's cash. So yeah, I feel like that's very important to have. Of course, you're not gonna go get 5-6 credit cards and max them out.
Right.
Don't do that, but at least keep 1 or 2 trade lines open.
Where do you open credit? Because I've been told Don Roberto's is the place to go, and I'm like, I don't know if that's the only Best Buy.
I always recommend, if they have 0, I always recommend like a secured credit card, which is where you work your own money, or even just getting added.
But not too many banks do that.
Not really.
No.
Yeah.
Wells Fargo does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I
Wells
recommend.
Fargo?
Yeah, or getting added as an authorized user
That's
on
right.
someone else's like account, but make sure that account is in good standing.
Yeah.
Can a teenager be added to?
Absolutely.
That's I was told no, but then I did my research and like my 16-year-old can do it, right? My 17-year-old can be added. I did that, but we never used the card. I think they closed it.
And regardless, they're still gonna get graded,
Sure.
if you will, on like your spending.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think that's a really good
to
way
know.
to build your credit. If you don't want to get in debt, okay, don't get in debt. Just get added. Don't use the card
That's
if you
smart.
don't even have to. Yeah.
Just have someone responsible though, right? Because don't have someone that's don't pick the tío or tía that's like bad spender. Back in the day, it was Radio Shack and who knows all those other places that just like they just open up easy credit. But yeah, just I think I agree that there is good debt. I know in my own personal journey, debt has been a huge factor. The good debt, right? The investment debt. This building, for example, my commercial building, my personal home, the flips that I've done, all that has been possible because of debt. Right? Using other people's money, using the bank's money to leverage. Yeah. So that's kind of where I too want to like educate people on like, there's a good use of debt, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing and use it in a way that is going to be an advantage. Like not the dumb debt, consumer debt that we're just like, we don't realize how much of a negative effect it has on us. Right. And it's like a dopamine hit. Oh, I just spent this much and I got this without money. Like, yeah, but that's not a good investment,
Yeah, right.
So Well, what other questions? Okay, I'll ask you guys a question. How many real estate agents do you know that own their own office or building?
Not many.
Yeah, not many.
Could you name any? Not that you're gonna name him here.
No, actually, I know two that own their building, and
Are they agents or are they brokers?
one is a broker.
Yeah.
And are you a broker? No, right.
I thought about it.
Okay, why haven't you?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to leverage my time and money. I'm still a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Broker just means I'm now taking the liability of people writing contracts, right? The litigation part, the law part of real estate. But I think I learned in this business that you don't have to be a broker to be an owner.
Right.
You can lead a team, right? The difference being now that I have to comply with whatever my company's regulations are. So I just have to make sure that whatever my company represents, like whatever their culture is, it aligns with mine.
Right.
And I'm fine with that. And obviously there's a commission split, but I have to see like, why is it worth it?
Right.
Right. In our case, we belong to the brokerage of EXP Realty. And for me, it makes sense because whatever money we put into it, we almost, I wouldn't say 100% get it in return, but we're truly agent owned in that we're investing in the stock there. Right. And I would assume, I haven't met too many of them, but I would assume that we have plenty of agents, the top producing ones that own a good chunk now of that company because of the stock. Right. So that's a good thing about it. But yeah, I thought about the brokers. I actually went through the process, applied. I got a letter back saying, hey, you're still missing this and this and this. And I just never went through with it. But like I said, I think part of it is just, I don't want to leverage my time in that aspect. Like, I know brokers right now that are getting sued or they're, they're responsible for whatever their agents do, man. And I'm like, absolutely. I don't know. I mean, as a team leader, because I am a team leader, I'm still responsible, but not to that extent, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like the broker is the one that's ultimately responsible. Right. So I think that's part of it. And I think there's just the management part of it too, which honestly, even as a team leader, there's the management that you have to do. But I think as a broker, it's just now you're more focused on, I think, from what I've seen, most brokers are more focused on numbers. Like, I need more agents, right? I need more agents because the more agents, even if they only produce 2 or 3, but if I have 40 agents that produce 2 or 3, right? Whereas I'm the opposite. I'm like, okay, I have newer agents, but I can pour into that team. They can make more as a team than the broker, right? If we focus and do really well. So that's part of it too. But yeah, I think,